Well, well, well. Ron DeSantis' appeal to ban Florida drag shows rejected once again. Ron DeSantis' administration has suffered a legal blow this week after the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals blocked his appeal to enforce Florida's drag ban. The decision upholds a ruling made by District Judge Gregory Presnell, who declared in June that the drag ban did not sufficiently protect free speech and enforced an injunction. DeSantis' administration had appealed the ruling and requested a partial stay of the injunction, but this was rejected on Wednesday, the 13th of October. As a result of this week's ruling, drag performances will continue to be legal in the state of Florida. Now, to be clear, this does not mean you won't be shot by a Nazi with an AR-15. That is still very possible and, possibly even likely, but it is legal. It is technically legal. You see, Ron DeSantis is kind of a blustering fool. His attempts to take away LGBT people's rights, while very aggressive, are very limited. A lot of it is just bark, and he is very limited on how much bite he can actually have. On a state level, he has a fair amount of power, but there is a limit to how much he can infringe on people's freedoms. The First Amendment exists, after all. So, just as in liberal states, tons of anti-Second Amendment policies are getting struck down in courts based on their being unconstitutional, for the same reason, these policies will be struck down for being unconstitutional because of the First Amendment in Republican states, as long as they are challenged in the right courts and the right judges preside over the cases. It comes as a surprise to some, given the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals' history of upholding anti-LGBTQ+ state legislation, such as restrictive bathroom legislations and bans on gender-affirming care for transgender minors. The big difference, though, is drag is freedom of expression and freedom of speech. It is, by definition, by the books, anti-constitutional to ban it, and it's not as arguable in court as those other issues. So even a Republican court would have to, cede on that issue. The 2-1 decision was made by a panel made up of judges Adalberto Jordan, Robin Rosenbaum, and Andrew Brasher. The joint ruling read, "The potential harms from reversing the injunction outweigh those of leaving it in place by mistake. While there was potential for extraordinary harm and a serious chill upon protected speech, by reversing the injunction, the potential harms in allowing it to remain were minimal," the ruling determined. Judge Andrew Basher, it's Brasher, not Basher. God, imagine if it was Basher, like Basherverse. Judge Andrew Brasher, who cast the only dissenting vote, did so with the intention of making an exception for a single restaurant, Hamburger Mary's, which sued the state back in May. That's right, if you sue the state, these politicians and judges will remember you. The Orlando restaurant, known for its family-friendly drag brunch performances, sued DeSantis' administration over its controversial Protection of Children bill, which they argued was too vague and broad and had as a result affected their business and violated their free speech. The Protection of Children bill would allow for restaurants, bars, and other venues to have their licenses revoked if they were in violation of the bill. Additionally, individuals who knowingly admit children to drag performances or adult live performances could face first-degree misdemeanor charges. It would also prohibit local governments from issuing public permits for adult live performances. That bill also wouldn't have stayed up the second, some 22-year-old uncle took, his 13-year-old nephew out to a strip club and got stopped by the bouncer at the door and, got charged with a first-degree misdemeanor. Once that happened, it would just be... It would just wouldn't stay up because, all the Republicans that have had that same experience would be like, no, not Hooters. Every young boy needs the experience of going to a strip club with an older male, guardian when they're, 13 or 12 or something. It's important. A lot of those Republicans are like that. They believe that. And so the second that law would be applied in that scenario, they wouldn't agree with the law anymore. Listen, the Republicans are all against exposing minors to, like, adult performances as long as said adult performances are queer-coded and involve gay people. If it's straight shit, they don't mind. Have you seen how many, like, Hooters is a family restaurant, and its entire branding is tits. Women with their tits out, and big tits. Tits. Hooters is, is supposed to be a joke about tits. They have kids eat free at Hooters, okay? Is Hooters not a thing outside of America? Let me give you guys, like, an insight to how ridiculous this is if you're not American. Look at this shit. I think this is literally a meme.
Hi, we're the Hooters girls from Mermaid Beach on the Gold Coast.
This is Australia. You've got it outside of here. Okay, hold on. This isn't even just a America thing. You've got it in Australia. This is an Australian one. Okay, well, here we go.
Great food. Ice cold drink.
Non-stop sports. A fun family atmosphere delivered by the world-famous Hooters girls. Hooters makes you happy.
Proudly supporting Paradise Kids. They love supporting kids' charities, too. It's like, part of their branding is tits and kids. It's very bizarre, dude. It's very, very weird. But it's okay, I guess, because it's not gay. In his ruling, Brasher wrote, HM's, Hamburger Mary's, injury is the fear of being prosecuted for violating the Protection of Children bill. Quote, a preliminary injunction prohibiting state officials from enforcing that law against HM and anyone acting in concert with HM would completely remedy HM's injury. Nothing more is necessary or appropriate. That was his attempt to try to get this canceled, but it didn't go through. He was the one guy who voted against it. Florida is the latest state to have its attempts at a drag ban dashed by the courts. This year, similar drag bans have been blocked and deemed unconstitutional in Tennessee and in Texas. Not only do Republicans fucking lose on the issues when it comes to the ballots, when it comes to these issues, but they lose on these issues when it comes to the courts and actually passing the bills and keeping them like these laws in place for any substantial period of time. It's all a bluff. They're all desperate to gain full, like, uncontested control of the government so they can pass these laws. Because as long as they have any, like, as long as they have contested control, they can't do it. They can't instill these policies without any pushback. Yeah, it's the whole article. Holy crap, it is good to see some good news coming out of Florida for once. Ron DeSantis, you know, I will say, I love that this article, by the way, chose this photo of Ron DeSantis, where if you really squint, it looks like he's Sieg Heiling. It looks like he's doing a little Hail Hitler if you squint. Like, if you squint and look at it from an angle, it looks like he's hailing Hitler. I like that. That's a good choice to use as the headline. But it's nice to see some good news come out of Florida for once, huh? Finally, some good Florida news. I can finally be a little bit proud to be a Floridian, for once. I've been proud a few times, particularly when it comes to the gun rights in Florida, but, you know, that aside, finally, on a political issue, I can be proud to be a Floridian. Hopefully many more cases like this will occur in the future, but I'm not getting my hopes up, to be honest. Florida's a very right-wing state. Actually, this is a good time to talk about how the actual population of Florida is electorally. How many of you guys have heard of a place called The Villages? Oh, there's a Vice film about it. Let's see how much of this I can show without getting, let me see how much of this I can show without getting copyrighted. This is The Villages. All white boomers as far as the eye can see. This is an entire city-sized gated community in Florida for old people only. Golf courses, pickleball courts, and Trump supporters, and gun stores as far as the eye can see. And lots of money. Let's see how much of this I can watch before I get copyright memed.
These are folks who have a very clear idea of society and what it should be, and it matches perfectly with what the developers provide them.
Today we're screening The Bubble, A film that takes place inside a retirement community. It's like a college campus for the elderly, with a lot of golf, booze, and guns. Getting old doesn't have to be depressing. These people have worked hard, and now they're playing hard.
Do you miss your families at all?
Trust fund babies. They didn't work hard. Most of these people did not work hard. They're trust fund babies. They had, like, their parents fought in World War II, and they had, like, a lot of generational wealth that got passed down to them. They invested, they got lucky, and now this is where they're at.
It's the fastest growing municipality in the United States, a sprawling American utopia for mostly white boomers. And where else but Florida? Directed by Valerie Blankenbill, here's The Bubble.
I feel like that intro is really all you need to see. I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight. Like, that's literally, it's miles and miles and miles of suburban hell. And then on all four corners, there are, like, town halls. Like, there are these, like, little town squares where they do, like, nonstop drinks and boomer, like, swingers parties and shit. It's just, it's a hellscape. And it's all a big gated community. And the population is, like, 99.9% white. The only non-white people there are workers. There are like some Hispanic people that work as like you'll see working as like landscapers, and you'll see some black people working in convenience stores. And you better believe they are so relieved when you're polite to them, because oh my God, you've never seen anybody working in the service industry who's more abused than a non-white person working in the villages in Florida. They get screamed at nonstop. I saw multiple cases. I went to the villages for maybe 4 hours in my entire life. I saw multiple instances of old white people screaming at non-white people, usually workers that were like doing things for them. It genuinely is hell. It is hell. And because of its location, if you live in that area or around it, it's the only work there is. So the people in that situation have nowhere else to work but the villages and the businesses in the villages, because it's literally a city inside of a gated community with grocery stores and liquor stores and gas stations and shopping malls and big strip malls and stroads, classic American stroads, like miles and miles of classic American stroad with big parking lots, and it's all inside a giant gated community. It's huge. It is the size of a city. It is a literal nightmare. Oh, and if that's not bad enough, every other house has a cop car parked in it, because there are a lot of them are cops, and you cannot go. There are cops on every road. You will always have a cop driving with you on the road. The stress of there being a cop there will always be present when you're driving around the villages. There's always a cop behind you, in front of you, driving next to you, or parked somewhere in your line of sight. What is a stroad? I guess this is somewhat related too. This is from Not Just Bikes. We'll show a second of this too. Florida is nothing but this, by the way. Literally, all of Florida is nothing but this.
The US or Canada, then this will certainly look familiar to you. Multiple lanes of car traffic, wide highway-sized lanes, giant signs, traffic lights, parking lots, lots of driveways and side streets with traffic merging in and out. And a place that's nearly impossible to cross as a pedestrian. There isn't even a sidewalk here. These are what Strongtowns refers to as stroads, which is a horrible name, and that's intentional because these are horrible places.
That's not even bad.
Stroads are a street-road hybrid, and they are dangerous,
in Florida, it's
expensive,
way worse
and
than this.
ineffective. I'll get to those issues in a moment, but
that's
first,
what it's like
let's
in
talk
Florida.
about the difference between a street
but no
and
sidewalk.
a road, according to Strongtowns.
Don't worry, you just have to walk a mile of car dealerships to get to the grocery store. You know? And whatever this giant field is as well.
This is a road. It is a high-speed connection between two places. Because of the high speeds involved, there are several safety features. The lanes are wide and forgiving so that vehicles do not bump into each other. The road is as straight as possible, and when curves are necessary, they're designed to be gentle, making it easy to drive along. The area next to the road, called the clear zone, is free of any obstacles that could be hit, just in case a vehicle runs off the road. The signs are very large, designed to be read from a distance and at high speeds. and entrances and exits are few and far between because the road is designed to keep vehicles at a high speed for as long as possible to minimize travel times. Roads are important, we need roads, though I personally prefer my roads to have rails.
Trains are cool. I like trains.
This
Everyone
is
likes
a
trains.
street. It is a complex environment where life in the city happens.
That is not America.
Buildings are placed right next to the sidewalk to be easily accessible by people walking, and it gives a sense of space, almost like an outdoor room. This is a place that feels comfortable
Yeah,
to
it's
be
definitely
in,
not America.
so you find people here.
Frederick,
There are many
explain.
entrances and exits to and from the street, and there may also be street parking for vehicles and deliveries. This is an environment meant for slow speeds because this is a destination, not a thoroughfare. High-speed traffic is not compatible with lots of human activity, so vehicle speeds are reduced. Everything on the street is at a human scale. It's designed to be inviting, encouraging people to walk, to window shop, or to just sit and watch the world go by. The street is designed to get the most value out of the
that's
space
nice.
available.
That's nice.
Streets are very important, and we definitely need streets. A strode, on the other hand, is neither of these things. Just like how a futon converts from a terrible uncomfortable couch to a terrible uncomfortable bed, the strode is the futon of transportation. It is a street that is designed like a road, and in doing so, it fails at being good at either one.
In America, you can see there's a city, like a downtown in the distance, like that's a larger city. I don't know what city this is, but this is very, very common, where you'll have a large city, let's say, for example, where I grew up, Tampa, and from it, stretching out several highways, main highways that'll, you'll go off on. And then you've got like interstate roads and main roads and whatnot. And when you come out on these main roads here, like the big 4-lane or 6-lane or even 8-lane roads, it's just a long line out of the city into the suburbs. And along that road, there's so much real estate that businesses want because there's so much traffic to get out into the suburbs that you have to go through a line of businesses with big parking lots and strip malls and everything to get to the houses. You can see it's literally just a wall of businesses and then houses, just endless suburbia. That's most of how America is set up.
The strode fails at being a street.
So yeah, Florida does this quite awfully. It is quite persistent on that. So I'm glad that with this story, we finally got something for me to be thankful to be a Floridian about, you know? Finally something.